Hello. Hello. Hey, everyone. Waiting here for Armen Hammer to get on the line with us, do a quick recap on yesterday, and to also talk about what he thinks is going to happen today. Just waiting, everybody. Those of you that are tuning in, just waiting for the Armen.
Hey, dude.
Dude,
What's up?
let's do this super quick, man. I was just going to ask you a couple questions, and then I thought, you know what? Let's record it for posterity's sake.
Sure.
I'm going to ask you what you might consider a stupid question first, okay?
I don't think it's going to be a stupid question. Hit me.
Well, I might get slaughtered for this, but is it possible Matt Fraser is on performance-enhancing drugs?
Is it possible? I mean, I guess it's possible that like anybody is, right? But I will say that he's pretty stringently tested. At least he was when he was in weightlifting. He's tested to the same level as everybody else is in the CrossFit space. But
I
yeah,
hate that.
I mean,
I hate that we live in a world where this always happens, but he's not winning by a little.
yeah, his margin of victory, especially in that first event, is phenomenal. I mean, that is well outside of like normal standard deviations. But he has been the best guy at thrusters and pull-ups in the world for the past few years. It's no surprise to me that when there's the CrossFit Games on the line, that he like takes it to another level. I wouldn't look at that like okay, so like what I would say if I wanted to see whether he was like what I would look for not in just him, but in the athletes in general, what I would look for is sudden and unexpected increases of strength after after they've already hit like a mature training age, so they're not like novice anymore. So if they've been doing something, like they've been doing CrossFit for like 10 years and then suddenly they put like 70 pounds on their front squat or their back squat, and it's like, okay, that could be a little questionable.
Like when the guys jump from 25 home runs to 50.
Exactly. It's not with it. It's like an unexpected and sudden growth. The other thing I would look for is regular and unexpected ligament damage, because usually what happens when I think people are on exogenous testosterone is musculature gets stronger, but like the connective tissue doesn't catch up, and it could cause like some like soft tissue damage. So those are like the two red flags that I look for a lot if I'm like suspecting something.
I'm actually live with someone right now. Where's River going? My well, you're only live to YouTube. My 7-year-old is now running down the street.
What did you do, Matt B. Davis?
This is COVID, my friends. This is life in COVID.
What did you do?
Armen, you would think, how could one person just be so straight-faced during the summer? This is every day. This is every day in my house, so I'm very used to it. Armen, how are your picks holding up?
My picks?
Yeah,
they're doing okay.
You laid some down.
They're doing okay. So on the men's side, I have to remember, Vellner is on the outside looking in. Chandler Smith is on the outside looking in. Jeffrey Adler is in a qualifying spot right now. Matt is in a qualifying spot right now. And BKG is basically completely out of it. So on the men's side, I'm like 2 in, 2 on the outside looking in, and 1 completely wrong. And I think I definitely dropped the ball by not giving Noah more of a chance. Like I was more, and I explained this to him as well when I was talking to him. It was more of a indictment on what I thought the programming was going to be than it was about his fitness. And he understood what I was talking about. But either way, on the men's side, I'm like 2 are in right now, 2 are on the outside. 1 is completely just not going to make it.
Well, I mean, if you're making, it's kind of hard though, right? Too. It's like you're picking 5 people. It's very possible. It's like, oh, how did he not name that guy? It's like, it's very possible.
You have to leave out people, of course. And honestly, I'm the only person I know that called Jeff Adler.
Okay. And how about the women?
On the women's side, I am doing a little bit worse. On the women's side, Tia is in and Kara is in. So 2 of my picks are in on the top 5 right now. But Katrin and Kristen Holta are on the outside looking in, and Sarah has completely bonked. So it's like the same that's going on the men's side, except the 2 athletes that are on the outside looking in are like slightly lower on the leaderboard or slightly further out. And the competition on the women's side is crazy steep, like crazy steep, dude.
With what we have left and what you know about these athletes,
yeah,
what would you say now?
I'm not going to change my calls.
So you think Vellner will sneak his way back up?
Yep. I think Chandler Smith could
now,
could
so
make
not too tough, right? He's put himself in a good position, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I wouldn't change any of my picks, because
so who's the furthest down pick that you have to?
I would say Kristen Holta on the women's side. I want to say she's like 10th or 11th or something right now, but she definitely, this day is going to be good for her. As long as she doesn't completely just biff it somehow, this day is going to be good for her. These are the exact types of events that I would expect her to excel at. I'm kind of bummed about BKG and Sarah I think there might be something weird happening there. I don't know what's going on. The fact that both of them are underperforming and they train together is that's a red flag to me that something's going on there. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
what kind of something?
I don't know. Maybe they just weren't in the right headspace or weren't in the right training environment, and it affected both of them.
Yeah. So one of the things that Sean said, Sean or the other
Sean?
lady said,
Yeah, Woodland, yeah, or Annie Sakamoto.
Yeah, said like, why are they not performing well? Is something about the games like their kryptonite, right? About Sarah, like, has she choked before?
I mean, I think that's a bit of a stretch. Personally, I don't think I agree with Sean's read on that situation. Sarah's been second place at the games twice. She's had 2 years in a row, 18 and 19, that she didn't do well. But in 18, she broke a rib in the first day, so she had to drop out. And in 19, it was just a really weird year for everybody. So a lot of unexpected stuff happened in 2019 anyway. So I don't know if I'm quite at the level of saying that like she chokes at the CrossFit Games, but I certainly think something is wrong. I think the fact that 3 years in a row we haven't seen Sarah Sigmundsdottir fight for the podium, to me is an outlier. That's a red flag. You don't go second place 2 years in a row accidentally. So clearly something has happened in the past few years, and it hasn't been positive for her games competition, because she's done well in other competitions. That's the other thing. Like, she's done really well in other competitions. So
Well, that's what they were saying, is that there was something about, because this does happen, right? Like we forget, we're so impressed with their physical specimenness that we forget that it is up here. Talk to any
absolutely
champion, talk to anybody who's lost to champions. It's like something about my head wasn't right that day. So that's the part that we never can quite get our hands on. But I want to ask you again, I know we don't have a lot of time. You got great content to edit for the rest of the world to see. Are you sticking with those picks because it feels good to stick with those picks, or you're just like, knowing, how scientific is it? Are you looking at the events that are left? Are you looking at all? Or are you just like, you know what, I'm going because that's what I'm going with?
It's not arbitrary. I'll tell you that right now. It's not arbitrary. So like, I made my picks with very informed decisions. Like I used past performances. I used what I thought the programming was going to look like. I used, recent performances, my interactions with the athletes. All that stuff is what I used for my picks. So my picks weren't shots in the dark. And I'm not making adjustments because I haven't seen anything that like completely invalidates what my picks were based off of. And it's okay with me to like miss out on one or two of those picks. The obvious ones everyone's going to pick. Everyone's going to say Matt and Tia. A lot of people are going to say, Pat Vellner. A lot of people are going to say, like various athletes. They're just really popular. They're well known. For me, the fact that I said Jeff Adler and he's up there, that means a lot to me. The fact that I, picked Kristen Holta and Katrin Davidsdottir, and they're on the outside looking in, but actually have a fighting chance of making it, that means a lot to me. That means that like, the analysis that I'm making is more accurate than the analysis that other people are making. Who could have guessed that Sarah Sigmundsdottir and BKG were going to bonk this bad? Nobody. And it would have been foolish to bet against them because they've done so well in these types of events in the past. So, really it's like, there's no reason for me to change my picks, because what do I gain from saying, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and swap out Sarah Sigmundsdottir for Danny Spiegel, or I'm going to go ahead and swap out
Right.
BKG for Noah Olsen. It's like, well, yeah, obviously now that we've seen the events, but like, it is what it is.
What about our boy Jacob?
So
Way down there.
way down there. There's a couple reasons for that. So the two people that I got the biggest flack for not including were Fikowski and Noah. And right behind them, in terms of like people being like, why aren't you talking about this guy, was Jacob Hepner. So
he was what, fourth last year, fifth last year?
Yeah, he was top 10 last year. I forget exactly where he was, fourth or fifth. That sounds about right. I think maybe Scott Panchik was fourth, so he must have been fifth or sixth.
Well, I consider fourth or fifth far better than top 10, by the way. We know it gets shorter and shorter as we get closer to the top. So like ninth is like, you're very fit, but no one's talking about you.
Yeah. No, and on the women's side, another athlete that I got some flack for not including was Hailey Adams. And I just expected the workouts to end up being not in her favor, but she's been doing well. She's on the outside looking in, but she's been doing well. Okay, so the Jacob Hepner thing. So Hepner is like ridiculously fit, but he's also awful at strength stuff. Like he's terrible at strength stuff. Even he put up like this video on his Instagram about saying how like, you know, his friendly friend went well, and then his front squat, and he pointed to a dumpster behind him. He's like, my front squat was basically one of these on fire.
Right.
And he's right. Yeah, he's right. So, you know, when I would have expected him to do better on Diane. I would have said that between Jacob and Fikowski, those are like my two dark horses, and neither of them are doing particularly well. But I think that's just really programming dependent. And you know what Jake doesn't do very well? Jake doesn't do, you know, turn up and go crazy for 3 minutes very well. And the entire first day is turn up and go crazy for 3 minutes.
Who would you have expected to win front squat on the men's side?
Oh, 100% it was going to be Griffin Raleigh. There was no doubt.
Because he's a big, strong guy.
He's leagues stronger than everyone else in the field.
Okay. But that's the deal, is like, okay, and then what, right? You want to be a big, strong guy. That's great. And you got to do this other stuff. Yeah. Has he shown us that he's good at he made the top 30. So is that from an invite? By the way, sorry to be ignorant on the stuff, but is that
no, you're good.
Is that from the open? Is that from an invite? How did he get in there?
He won one of the sanction events that took place. He won the Norwegian CrossFit Championships.
Okay. So in Norwegia, he's pretty strong.
Yeah, he's an American guy. He just went and competed out there.
Okay, good for him.
Yeah.
So see, because I thought Chandler would be like second or third in that event, and he was like seventh. Isn't he like the fucking strongest dude?
Yeah, Chandler's super strong, but his mobility is his biggest weakness. His like ankles are all jacked up and his wrists are all jacked up.
You need a lot of wrist, I understand, for the front squat.
A lot of wrist, dude. A lot of wrist. It's like 50% legs, 50% wrist,
right.
30%.
That looks hard. I understand why that looks hard to me. I watched those front squats and I was like, man, they're working. And you know my what's the word? My understanding of how all this works is pretty limited. So between you and my wife, I learn what I need to learn about these things. Like I started watching Stacy. I'm like, Stacy, what's going on there? So she explains it to me. I'm gonna ask you one more question. I keep saying that, but you said too much bar for these workouts.
Yeah.
That, oh, this is too much bar. Armen, what? And we're probably gonna cover this again when I have you post games, but what else are they gonna do? We're pretty limited, man. They're gonna run around with sandbags. They're gonna fucking.
No,
do,
I think it's a cop out. I think
that's always your answer when I say that.
No,
you're always like,
the more I look at this programming, the less comfortable I am with it. I think there's something deeply wrong with these workouts, and I don't understand why no one else is talking about it. Like I've brought it up a bunch of times on my channel, but I think there's something fundamentally wrong with these workouts. The fact that almost all of them are barbell based, the fact that almost all of them are under 3 minutes, the fact that almost all of them are like dependent on like one capacity, like this, it's basically only testing one thing, to me is a big problem. The issue isn't, oh, Matt and Tia aren't going to make it. The issue is you're using these workouts to select for the top 5. You're not using these workouts to select for number 1. Number 1 is going to be number 1 almost regardless of what the workouts are. So when you're trying to select for your top 5, you're clearly placing some sort of importance on who 2 through 5 are. So you want your programming to be very, very specific and surgical in making sure that the correct 2 through 5 are also selected.
Right. So is it possible Dave's like, listen, there's only so much we can do. When we get them on the ranch, we're going to put them in the water. We're going to get big ropes.
I think that I think if that is the mindset, I think that is a very, very bad idea. I think that's probably the worst concept to use, because look at it this way, dude. Like when you let's say it's November. We know who the CrossFit Games champions are. We know what every event is that they all did. You don't combine the open workouts and then the games workouts on this online stage and then the games workouts in the in-person stage and say this was the full test, because not everybody did that. So the fact that they're resetting from one stage to the next tells you that each individual stage has its own individual purpose. The open is supposed to select for the people who would do the best at the games. The games online stage is supposed to select for the people who would do best in the individual the top 5 portion. And it's supposed to work like a funnel. But if you only ever care about number 1, well, you're basically placing a bet saying, all right, is the programming the reason why number 1 is making it through, or is number 1 just really, really good at everything and it doesn't matter what 7 events you put up there, they're still going to make it through? So, you know, the fact that they've used this argument of, oh, well, look who the winners are every year, the correct people are winning and that's all we care about, so the programming must be good. They've used this argument every year in the open, in the regionals, in the games, and that's a circular argument that makes no sense. Realistically, the fact that they are resetting the scores between this stage and the final 5, that tells you that the way that this should be programmed is as a selective test. It is supposed to give you not just number 1, but it's supposed to give you an accurate reading of 2 through 5. And I'm not 100% sure doing 4 events under 4 minutes in the first day is going to give you an accurate reading of number 2 through 5. And saying that like, oh, what can they do? They can do a lot of things. They can do a lot of things. Look at the programming at the Rogue Invitational. Look at the programming of my own Sneaky Fit event. Look at the programming of the Open. The Open requires athletes to have access to rings. They didn't ask them to use rings in the games. The Open requires access to dumbbells. They didn't ask them to do anything with dumbbells. The Open requires you to have access to a box. They didn't do anything with a box. Are you kidding me? These are the best CrossFitters in the world. They train for the CrossFit Games, and you're telling me that they do not collectively have access to sandbags or heavy kettlebells or dumbbells? It's a joke. That argument to me is a joke. So like,
what were they sent? They were sent a jump rope? What were they sent?
So the athletes were, for the final event, are supposed to be provided with a jump rope, a drag rope. Yeah. And I've heard rumors that some of those drag ropes didn't make it to the athletes. So I don't know what's supposed to happen in that case.
You failed by FedEx. Well, listen, Armen Hammer, thanks for hopping on. I look forward to, so you guys are coming on what time? What time is the morning chalk up crew getting on?
3 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Pacific, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and throw this up on the old podcast machine. I just thought I'd hop on there quickly with you this morning. And these are exciting times, my friend.
Yes, they are. CrossFit Games are finally back.
Woohoo.
Woohoo.
And maybe I can edit out my kids screaming.
Nah.
All right, buddy. See you later.
Thanks. Good talking to you, bud.